Schools in the 1970s weren't just about math tests and homework. They were packed with some of the funniest moments you'd never get away with today. From teachers accidentally setting film strips on fire to kids turning cafeteria lunches into comedy shows, every day felt like we were a part of some sitcom. Stay till the end, because we're counting down 25 hilarious things that happened in 70s schools. And believe me, the 25th thing on our list is going to crack you up just like the good old days. Number 1, overhead projector mishaps. If you grew up in a 1970s classroom, you remember the overhead projector, this giant humming box with a blinding light that made teachers feel like they were running NASA. But the real humor wasn't in the lessons, it was in the accidents. Teachers would place their transparency upside down, backward, or even accidentally right on the plastic with a permanent marker. Half the class would laugh as they scrambled to clean it off with spit and tissues. And when the machine overheated, that smell of burning dust filled the room. Kids said it was the smell of learning. Everyone knew if you sat near the cart, you'd become the shadow puppet star of the day, holding up your hand to make bunny ears dance across the screen. Well, that was funny, but the next one was even funnier. Beat 2, pocket comb. The 70s kid hairstyle wasn't complete without one essential tool: the wide plastic comb, usually sticking out of the back pocket. Boys thought they looked cool flipping it out like a switchblade, combing their feathered hair in the hallway. The hilarious part was how often these combs broke in half mid-swipe or flew across the classroom when someone tried to be slick. Teachers confiscated them by the dozens, tossing them into the drawer. Some kids even collected neon-colored combs like trophies and traded them like baseball cards. But sometimes it was the fashion sense that left everyone cracking up. By the way, what's the funniest school memory you still remember? Drop your story in the comments. We love sharing your memories in future videos. Beat 3, bell-bottom blunders. Bell-bottom pants were more than a fashion statement. They were a comedy routine waiting to happen. Imagine kids racing to the bus only to have the giant flared bottoms get caught on stair rails, desks, or even other students' feet. Trips, slips, and hallway pileups became a daily event. And let's not forget the kids who thought it was cool to wear theirs 2 sizes too long, dragging them like mop heads down the school corridor until they frayed into tassels. And if a kid dared to ride their bike to school in these pants, you could bet those giant flares were getting chewed up by the chain before the first period even started. Teachers would shake their heads seeing kids wearing them, but even they couldn't help but laugh. Now let's talk about something that even the teachers couldn't figure out where it came from. Number 4, animals in the classroom. Every school seemed to have that one kid who smuggled in a frog, hamster, or, if they were feeling extra bold, a garden snake. The 1970s were loose with rules, so teachers often discovered these pets mid-lesson. Imagine Mrs. Thompson screaming as a frog hopped across the chalkboard eraser tray, or the lunchroom going into a frenzy because a mouse got loose. There was always laughter, shrieking, and a janitor with a broom chasing after the culprit. And who could forget the science teachers who actually encouraged it, proudly keeping tarantulas or turtles that inevitably escaped? Nothing made a school day more unforgettable than seeing your teachers climb on a chair in panic. And sometimes the real wild creatures weren't in tanks or pockets. They were the teachers themselves. Number 5, dance moves. Back in the 1970s, disco fever had even made its way into school assemblies and gym classes, thanks to enthusiastic teachers. Students remember how their music teacher once stood at the front and declared, "Let's learn a dance today," turning the gym into a disco floor. One memory recalls how, in 1975, a music teacher used to teach students a dance called the hustle. How cool was that? High school dances were also a huge deal, often with live bands or record players spinning vinyl records. The atmosphere was already buzzing with music, so when a teacher tried sneaking onto the dance floor to show off their version of the funky chicken, you can imagine the eruption of laughter. Now, I bet we all waited for the next thing to go wrong in class so we could die with laughter together. Number 6, film strip fails. The 1970s classroom movie day wasn't Netflix, it was film strips. A teacher would dim the lights, fire up the clunky projector, and hit play. But without fail, the film would jam, snap, or catch fire, leaving the smell of melted plastic in the air. While teachers panicked with scotch tape and prayers, kids laughed hysterically, wishing something would go wrong so they could have the day off. Sometimes the film was out of sync, so the narrator's voice didn't match the pictures, and serious health messages unintentionally became hilarious. And if the teacher forgot to turn off the tape recorder, the film would click, click, click for minutes while everyone giggled in the dark. Do you remember what we used to do with the furniture in our schools? Let's revisit those memories. Number 7, desk carvings and graffiti. Before cell phones, kids passed the time by carving doodles, jokes, and love notes into wooden desks. Some desks looked like full art galleries with peace signs, initials, and even full comic strips scratched in. Students swapped stories about finding messages like, "Warning, don't turn around," carved right where their arm rested during tests. Teachers tried to scrub them clean, but the graffiti always came back, sharper and more creative. Sometimes desks would collapse entirely mid-class, sending books flying and kids rolling in laughter. But the carvings weren't the only surprise. There was also the hated underside. Every kid knew the horror of reaching under the desk and finding a mountain of old chewing gum stuck there, hardened into colorful layers over the years. It was gross, it was funny, and it made desks feel like archaeological digs. It was funny, but the pranks in the 70s were pure gold. Number 8, locker pranks. Lockers in the 70s were comedy gold. Kids stuffed them with so much junk that when they finally opened, an avalanche of gym clothes and old sandwiches spilled out. The classic prank was setting someone's combination lock to spin endlessly or swapping their books with wadded-up newspapers. Some students even climbed into lockers to scare their friends, only to get stuck until the janitor rescued them. And that wasn't the only prank. Kids used to balance a carton of milk or a paper cup of water just right on the top shelf. The second a kid yanked their locker open, splash! Their books, hair, and ego were soaked in front of half the hallway, and the laughter was instant. And who could forget the smell, half hairspray, half rotten meat from forgotten lunches? The laughter in the hallway was endless. Lockers caused pure chaos, but nothing compared to the fun of the cafeteria. Number 9, Mystery Meat Mondays. The 1970s cafeteria was infamous for serving mystery meat, rectangular hamburgers, wobbly jello with carrots, or unidentifiable casseroles. Kids joked about whether the meat came from the local zoo, poking it with forks to see if it moved. Lunch trades turned into comedy shows. "I'll give you 2 Twinkies if you eat this green hot dog." And every now and then, a brave soul would start a food fight, turning the lunchroom into a circus until the principal stormed in. But what happened on the playground took things to the next level. Number 10, playground tumbles. Playgrounds in the 70s were basically injury factories, but also Comedy Central. Steel slides were so scorching hot that they literally roasted your backside. Seesaws catapulted kids into the dirt, and merry-go-rounds spun so fast someone always flew off. Kids laughed until they cried watching their classmates skid across the gravel, only to get back up and do it again. And the jungle gym, that was the stage for endless dares. Even teachers chuckled when a kid proudly climbed to the top, only to realize they couldn't get down. However, some of the best laughs came from creative excuses. Number 11, classroom excuses. Every 70s kid knew the classic excuse, "My dog ate my homework." And while teachers rolled their eyes, the funny part was how creative kids got with their versions. "The wind blew it away," "My baby brother colored all over it," or "I used it to clean up a spill." Some teachers even encouraged the silliness, asking kids to tell their best excuse at the start of class. Laughter filled the room as stories grew more outrageous. And if you ever tried telling the innocent truth, "I forgot to do it," you already knew what was coming next. With a raised eyebrow and that teacherly smirk, the reply was automatic. "Did you forget to eat?" It was the classic comeback of the decade. Remember when we used to make each other almost unrecognizable? Number 12, chalkboard eraser battles. Detention in the 70s often meant cleaning chalkboard erasers, slamming them together outside until clouds of dust flew everywhere. Kids quickly turned it into a battle, puffing chalk like smoke bombs or leaving ghostly handprints on their friends' backs. Teachers walked into classrooms to find entire groups covered in white powder, looking like little ghosts. It was the kind of punishment that turned into playtime. Chalk dust filled the air, but what floated across classrooms was even more distracting. Number 13. Paper airplane tournaments. The art of folding the perfect paper airplane was practically a school sport in the 70s. Kids tested different designs, seeing who could glide their plane across the classroom without the teacher noticing. Of course, someone always launched one during a serious lesson, sending it nosediving into the chalkboard or landing squarely on the teacher's desk, or worse, their head. When one plane got stuck in the ceiling tiles, it stayed there for months like a trophy. And the next funny thing was all about bouncing. Number 14, Super Ball madness. Super balls, those tiny, high-bouncing rubber spheres, were banned in half the schools for a reason. A single bounce could ricochet off 10 walls and knock over an entire stack of books. Lunchtime turned into chaos when someone smuggled one in, and classrooms echoed with shrieks of laughter as teachers tried and failed to catch them. Principals confiscated hundreds, only to find their desks filled with rubber chaos when one slipped away mid-conversation. This was one of the most funniest memories, but I'm sure the next one on our list will make you fall out of your chair with laughter. Number 15, recorder concerts. Every 70s kid dreaded and laughed at the recorder. Those squeaky plastic instruments were handed out to entire classrooms, and the result was less music and more ear-piercing chaos. Imagine 30 kids all playing hot cross buns out of tune while parents tried to clap politely. The funniest moments were when a kid got dizzy from blowing too hard, or when one recorder squealed louder than the rest, leaving the teacher confused. It was hilarious torture. But you're going to feel nostalgic when you hear what kids did in gym class. But before that, if these 70s school memories are making you laugh, hit the like button. It helps us dig up even more forgotten classroom moments. And don't forget to subscribe. We've got new nostalgic stories every other day. Number 16, dodgeball drama. Gym class in the 70s meant dodgeball, with giant rubber balls that left red marks across your face if you got hit. The funniest part was when kids dramatically played dead, collapsing in slow motion, or when the tiniest kid knocked out the class bully. Everyone cheered like it was the Super Bowl. Teachers pretended to be serious referees but laughed along when half the class ended up hiding behind the bleachers. Now, if you ever got caught doing the next thing on the list, humiliation was guaranteed. Number 17, passing notes. Before texting and social media, there was the art of note passing. Kids folded paper into tiny triangles, sneaking them across desks with the stealth of secret agents. The funniest part was when teachers intercepted them and read the notes aloud, revealing crushes, doodles, or terrible jokes. The class erupted every time. Some kids like me even wrote fake notes just to get caught, knowing it would bring the house down. These notes caused a lot of laughs back in the day, but announcements over the loudspeaker delivered their own surprises. Number 18, PA system slip-ups. Every morning, schools broadcast announcements over the crackly PA system, but in the 70s, mistakes were constant. The principals forgot to turn off the mic, so kids heard them humming, sneezing, or muttering, "Where's my coffee?" The funniest was when students chosen to read announcements froze up, mispronounced words, or broke into giggles mid-sentence. The whole school laughed, even the teachers. But what happened when schools handed kids microphones on purpose was hilarious. Number 19, talent show disasters. School talent shows in the 70s were legendary for unintended comedy. Microphones squealed, kids forgot lyrics, and magic tricks went terribly wrong. One brave kid would try disco dancing, only to trip over the cord, while another froze on a stage until the audience started clapping along to encourage them. Parents laughed just as much as kids, and the bloopers were remembered longer than the actual winners. Now the school hallways provided their own brand of circus, and it used to be hilarious. Number 20, hall pass adventures. In the 70s, having a hall pass felt like a license to freedom. Most schools required raising your hand, requesting permission, and then carrying a large wooden hall pass that announced your bathroom journey to everyone you passed. But in the 70s, having a hall pass felt like a license to freedom. Kids stretched it into full-blown comedy routines, walking dramatically slow, pretending to direct traffic, or holding fake conversations with the janitor. Sometimes they disappeared for entire class periods, only to return with excuses that cracked everyone up. Teachers sighed, but classmates howled. Hall passes gave you a reason to stall, but fire drills made the day even funnier. Number 21, fire drills. Fire drills were supposed to be serious, but in the 70s, they often turned into comedy shows. Kids marched out of class pretending to faint, trip, or march in military style. Someone always yelled, "Race you to the playground," while teachers tried to maintain order. And if the drill happened in winter, the laughter was doubled by kids shivering in pajamas because it was Spirit Day. Okay, now this next one's pure nostalgia. Number 22, pep rally pranks. Pep rallies were chaotic, loud, and hilarious. Cheerleaders forgot routines, mascots tripped over their own feet, and the marching band sometimes started the wrong song. The funniest part was when you and your schoolmates booed rival schools in silly voices or held up ridiculous signs. Even teachers joined in, cracking jokes over the microphone. And just when things seemed calm, some kid let loose balloons or streamers that sent the crowd roaring. Now let's discuss activities that helped us make some of the best memories ever. Number 23, field trip fumbles. Every field trip came with guaranteed comedy. Kids got lost in museums, buses broke down, or lunches were left behind. Someone always made a joke about sleeping in the dinosaur exhibit or tried to sneak onto the wrong bus with their friends. Teachers tried to look serious, but even with their notes and rules, the chaos was unstoppable. And let's be honest, half the fun of field trips was laughing at classmates making fools of themselves. Field trips had laughs, but the next one was even better. Number 24, Picture Day disasters. Picture Day in the 70s was a day of errors. Hair sprayed into helmets, collars sticking out, and bell-bottoms clashing with swirly patterned shirts. Some kids blinked, others made goofy faces, and a few pulled rabbit ears behind their friends. Parents proudly hung these awkward masterpieces on the wall anyway. The funniest part was waiting for months to see the final result, only to burst out laughing at how terrible it was. And finally, let's talk about the thing that outmatches all other memories. Number 25, yearbook laughs. The yearbook was the ultimate laughing collection. Misspelled names, awkward captions, and accidental photo placements created endless laughter. Most likely to succeed was sometimes paired with the goofiest photo in the book. Kids laughed at the hairstyles, the poses, and even the doodles classmates added after signing. By the time summer rolled around, everyone remembered not just the lessons, but the laughs that defined 1970s school life. And with every flip of those pages, you couldn't help but smile because those funny little moments made school unforgettable. So, did these funniest things make you laugh? Share your favorite in the comments below. We love hearing your stories. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend who grew up in the 70s. And subscribe to our channel. This helps us bring back even more nostalgic snacks, forgotten treats, and childhood memories in every video.